Okay, so we have, and we'll get to the Trump and the U.S. dimension because, of course, like the great irony, and not again, not dissimilar from the Saudis, but we have a major base in Qatar, and and of course they're patrons of Jabhat al-Nusra, which so there is this sort of odd, truth, I guess, in some of the things that Trump is irresponsibly saying, but we'll get there in a second. Right? I mean, this is a very big move to cut off relations, to kind of impose a blockade. Uh, and I just want to play this sound really briefly. This is Qatari Finance Minister Ali Sharif Al Ahmadi. How am I doing on the pronunciation there, Derek?
That was, you're in the ballpark.
I'm in the. That sounds like Gentleman C. He's he's talking on CNBC, and he basically is saying that he's not gonna. That this is all about dictating, Saudi trying to dictate their foreign policy. And I want your comments on it, and then I want you to pivot, because if this goes as it goes, I mean, is there a possibility here that the Qataris say, all right, fine, forget it. Iran, we're going to escalate from friendly to, positive relations. It's going to be built around that shared natural resource, and, forget our other supposed Gulf brothers. But let's just listen to this for a moment. This is Ahmadi, Qatar's finance minister, on CNBC.
It's what's happening around us. I think it's a lot to do that they would like to dictate our foreign policy, and everybody knows that Qatar will not allow that somebody will take its to dictate its foreign policy or to manipulate how their foreign policy should be run.
So they were looking to manipulate.
And I think that was the main reason for whatever the action that they've done.
Now, when we talk about Qatar's relationship with the United States, you have two major U.S. military installations in Qatar, but we've seen some mixed messages from Washington. When you look at what's happening today, would you still say that President Trump is a man that Qatar can do business with?
Well, I think we need to look at the history of the relationship. I think whenever you look at Qatar plus the Western allies, if it was in Europe or it was in the United States, this is a very long and historic relationship. We're not talking about presidents here, or we're talking about a previous administration. We're talking about decades of relationship, and it's been quite a very good relationship in all aspects, if it was military or economically or even social and politically. So, and I think what we're seeing today is a little bit up and down here, but we understand that this is a delicate situation for all the regions in the Gulf, and hopefully that we can come out of this in a much stronger way for Qatar.
We've heard from U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, and he was urging calm, while at the same time the president was saying, quote, that Qatar is a high-level sponsor of terror. What do you think he's talking about?
Well, I think if you go back to 1 week, where is the President Trump actually praising Qatar in the GCC and the Arab Islamic Conference, which was in Riyadh, I think. He started his speech by really praising Qatar and becoming Qatar is really an important partner in actually combating terrorism and money laundering in the world. So, and I think the message was very clear from the American administration that we're taking good part in this, and we're working with our allies, with our partners, with our friend, really to combat. This is a very difficult region.
Okay, so there you go. I mean, we'll get, obviously that opens up the Trump dimension, which I have thoughts on too, but start with the Iran thing, because it seems like that's maybe encoded in the first part of the answer, which is, I mean, we already talked about Muslim Brotherhood in Al Jazeera, but there's the Iran aspect of trying to control their foreign policy. Do they move closer? Like, does the Saudi conspiracy that they have a secret alliance with Iran, which the Saudis have not provided any evidence for, does that become a self-fulfilling prophecy because of what the Saudis are doing?
I mean, I think it could. That would really be, I mean, if you want to talk about a nuclear option, that would be Qatar's nuclear option in this situation. I mean,
right.
If things really drag on and there's no end in sight, and food starts to run out again, or something really terrible comes of this. Could they do that? Yes, they could do that. There would be no coming back from that. And Qatar, while it has some vulnerabilities with respect to Iran, and therefore has tried to maintain a friendly relationship with Iran, it's got many, many more vulnerabilities to to countries like the Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Bahrain. So I think it would really take something dramatic to get the Qataris to take that step, because
like
it
actual
really is
military
a
action.
huge. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't see things escalating in that direction, because even without the Qataris asking, I think a Saudi threat on Qatar that would then, also threaten their shared gas field, I think would draw an Iranian response anyway. I don't think the Qataris would even have to ask for assistance. The Iranians would get involved in that no matter what.
Okay. So then, yeah.
But the lesser possibility here, the less than war, I guess, possibility is that the Saudis are trying to orchestrate a coup, which I don't think is out of the realm of possibility. And if something like that were to, if a serious threat like that were to come to light, maybe the Qataris would take the drastic step of sort of shedding the rest of the Gulf and throwing in with Iran. But again, that would be a really dramatic thing for them to do, and I think they would like to avoid it at all costs.
Derek, you and I have talked about, off air, about one of the kind of things that has emerged with Trump is that, in many ways, just like with domestic policy, he is just kind of a grotesque amplification of what already was the consensus, whether it's, Republican, give rich people money and destroy the federal government policy, but also in foreign policy. I mean, in some ways, for all of the kind of weird neo-isolationist ticks and shout-outs to the alt-right, it's kind of been a sort of Rubio-esque foreign policy in many ways. But with this situation, this is an area where it does seem like, probably no other president would be contradicting his Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State, who are trying to, issue signals to calm the situation down. And then Trump, as was indicated in an interview, is contradicting Tillerson in tweets. He said just the other day that, and this is where the U.S. has its largest base, and it serves as CENTCOM's forward, headquarters for the region. He called it a funder of terrorism at a very high level. Now, I don't like to adopt Trump speech patterns, but that's kind of true. And it basically seems that the Saudis, they're savvy enough to take the simplest lesson of all, which is that if Trump comes to your country and you throw a billboard up of him and you give him an amazing necklace and you say, my friend, you're much better than Barack Obama, much better. And your daughter is a total 10. I mean, a 10. It's like, why would there even be a rating scale? Maybe they even offered to behead Melania for him. If you do that, you are going to get loved by Donald Trump, and he will throw a delicate Game of Thrones balance out the window in a second because you're a billionaire, you're royalty, and you treated him well.
Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos?